So my name is Jordan Overton. I'm a junior here in the School of Meteorology. And with me I have my...
Erica Lopez, and I'm also a junior here at the School of Meteorology.
And we're here with Mike Bettis and Jim Cantore from the Weather Channel, and we're going to be talking to them just a little bit about their lives and about the Weather Channel and some things like that. So let's go and start off here. Let's give us a brief background, kind of where you're from, where you went to school, kind of graduate, how you got to the Weather Channel, kind of a thing.
You do the honors, old man. Go ahead.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Well, interesting enough, we just celebrated 30 years at the Weather Channel just a few weeks ago, which is incredible. You guys, you'll be 31 of these days. But anyway, no, it's just honestly, I graduated Linden State College in Vermont. I grew up in New England. I'm a New England kid, and always loved the snow. And I was painting a building one day, and my brother looks up and he goes, "Hey, the Weather Channel wants to talk to you." And I'm like, "Oh, that's cool. We just got them on cable, you know." So I came down and interviewed with this gentleman named Ray Van, and he decided to take a shot on this kid wet behind the ears, and the rest is history, as they say.
A little different for me. The Weather Channel is my, let's see, 1, 2, 3, fourth on-camera job. I was working as chief meteorologist at a station in Asheville, North Carolina before I came to the Weather Channel. I've been there 13 years now. And like this guy, I've seen a lot in the last, especially in the last decade or so. It's been a pretty crazy ride ever since. But I'm an Ohio guy through and through. I'm an Ohio State Buckeye, and so when we play OU this year, it's gonna be game on, baby.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay, so kind of a question about broadcast meteorology. Did y'all start off wanting to do broadcast when you were going into meteorology, or did you have other initial plans when you started off?
For me, I actually was thinking about the Air Force, believe it or not, and I got a chance to do broadcasting my junior year at Linden State, and I really fell in love with it. So, I started, it was funny, I was practicing my first time on air. I tried to memorize everything I was going to say, and as soon as I came on, I just went. So it was horrible. It went horrible. But after that, I kind of got used to it a little bit. So
I was probably somewhat similar. I wanted to be a meteorologist for NASA. And then I realized I was not a rocket scientist. I did some various internships, Weather Service. I did an internship with a local TV station in Columbus, Ohio, and same with Jim. I kind of fell in love with it. I thought it was just a cool. Yeah. It was the coolest non-paying job I ever had. And then from that point, I was like, you know what? I think this is for me, and it just evolved. But same thing, doing like your first ever, green screen audition or your practice tape at the TV station, you're a disaster. You're just awful. And I always wondered how the chief that I interned with ever thought I would make it in television. He was probably just like, this guy's got no future.
Okay, and then, so what is your favorite thing about working at the Weather Channel? What did you enjoy the most about it?
Oh man, the variety of weather. You get to cover the extremes of all 4 seasons, and being able to cover it live out in the field, I think, is a real thrill for me personally. When you come to places like Oklahoma and you get to storm chase, to me, that's epic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Weather Channel. When I first started out, it was fun to get out in the weather. Growing up in New England, I was like, oh my gosh, they're gonna let me go out and cover storms and be out in the weather, which I love. But at the time, I don't know, about 1996, this lady came up to me. I think I was covering Dennis on Wrightsville Beach, Hurricane Dennis, and she said, Mr. Cantore, we know it's going to get really bad out here, but I'm just glad that you're here to take us through it. And at that point, it just kind of clicked, and it's like, okay, now you get some purpose, man. This isn't just about being out here in the weather anymore. You actually have some purpose. So it's nice to be able to be out there and actually be a part of people's decisions, hopefully good decisions that they make with respect to the weather.
So kind of going off, all the different kinds of weathers that y'all get to experience, why did y'all choose to screen this film or documentary here at the Weather Center out of very many places? I know here we're like the heartland of tornadoes, but why this particular area?
There's no better place. And there's a lot of people that are featured in it that actually work here and do the science behind tornadoes. So I think it's a great place to come and show off the great minds that look at the inner workings of tornadoes. And listen, no place gets more than here, so it's the natural place to be.
This is exactly just like Mike said. This is the epicenter. This is the heart, National Weather Center. So there's really no better place. It was an easy decision.
And so obviously in the documentary we're talking about, a little bit about it. We're talking about the May 3rd, 1999 tornado, and we're talking a little bit about the tornado in 2013. So where were you guys whenever those tornadoes were occurring, and what were you guys doing at that time?
Let's see. I think I was just coming off of something that I was doing, and my producer Simon Temperton at the time was actually out here. They were out to shoot aftermath or something of something that previously happened, and they actually came upon that tornado. You asked me to remember a pretty good while ago, so I don't know exactly what I was doing that day, but I know that I had just come back from some trip doing something.
99, I was far removed. I was working in Ohio at the time, but 2013, I was actually here in Oklahoma.
Both of us were,
we had actually just covered the aftermath of a tornado the day before.
Edmund, was it the Edmund?
Yeah, I think it was an EF3 or EF4 tornado the day before. And then I was chasing with a group that day, and the more tornado happened actually a little bit earlier, I think, than a lot of us had expected. Happened, like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So we were out of position and not exactly expecting that thing to happen that quickly, but we ended up coming right back into more in a big traffic jam, and it was just, the pictures speak volumes. It was destruction everywhere.
And why do you guys think, kind of like what you just said, what happened earlier in the afternoon, why did you guys think it did happen earlier in the afternoon, that particular tornado?
Well, I think that that particular day, we knew things were going to happen that day, but I just think it was one of those things, I think that any cap that was there broke early, and it was just off to the races after that.
Very, very high level of dynamics. The atmosphere, like Mike said, was already in place for tornadoes in terms of the moisture, so boom.
Okay, so I guess kind of going off that, what kind of advice would you give undergraduate students who are working on getting their meteorology degree?
Oh, I would say,
press on. Keep going.
I say this to a lot of people, man. It's hard to get a job anymore, no matter what field you're in. But this is a really tight field. It's not. There aren't a ton of opportunities out there. So I always say this: be patient, but be persistent. Don't expect, that very first resume that you send out that you're going to get a job. It just doesn't happen that way anymore. But don't be discouraged. Just be persistent, because it'll happen for you.
And then maybe, what about fine-tuned advice for broadcasting students, particularly, with you guys both being in the broadcast field?
Just keep doing your craft, keep honing your craft in any way you can. I mean, if you can do other things like maybe be in a play or do some radio. I mean, whatever you do, just find your voice and your ability to stand in front of people or a camera to perform, because that's essentially what we're doing. We're taking weather information that we digest and we put it out there into a performance. Hopefully something good comes out of it.
Yeah, I would say if you're getting a degree in meteorology, a future employer already thinks you have a certain base level knowledge of weather, so they're not going to really question that. What they're really going to want to see is how you do in front of the camera. So don't be afraid to have the personality, and be bigger than you normally would be, because that doesn't translate on TV unless you are. And so once you're just outside of your comfort zone, you think you're being maybe a little bit over the top, it's probably just right. So just keep practicing, use local, school television, local TV stations for internships. You can get a lot of valuable experience by working in a real world environment.
Do you think I tuned it up enough for Thunder Snow?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, there's
Check. Just check.
there's ratcheting up a notch, and then there's Cantore.
That was awesome.
That was so exciting.
Oh, that was. There was a little bit of all of us in that.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Good moment.
Okay, so kind of going off, we were talking about internships and getting experience. Having internships also requires having social media. So how do you think over the years that social media has impacted broadcast meteorology?
In a very big way.
Yeah, it's huge.
Very big way. The immediateness of social media is incredibly important. You can get the information now faster than ever before. Warnings come at the blink of an eye. A notification pops up on your phone. But I think it's also a way to get the back and forth that you never had with traditional television, where it was just a one-way street. You talk to the television and someone ingested that. But now you can have a conversation with your viewers and people will ask you questions and you can give them real-time feedback, which I think is, that people love that. They love to know that you are available to them, and being available to them is really important.
I mean, we've come to tornado on the ground, but what does that tornado look like? And then all of a sudden you see a picture of this big wedge coming, you're like, holy cow, that's not just a tornado on the ground, plus it's coming toward a city or a town. So it kind of sets, I think, your tone when you're a broadcaster. It sets your tone. Your tone changes when you get to put a picture with a radar image. So.
And how has the transition been, 20 years ago when we didn't really have social media? How much, of a transition has that been for you guys personally, just, it being kind of just blowing up as much as, the internet and social media has, and the way you personally communicate weather information, and also from a personality standpoint, and how much of a personality do you like to show on social media when you're showing that to the public, because it's different from TV?
I think it's morphed, over the years. When social media first came out, we were all kind of experimenting with it, didn't know exactly what it was, and then, it really blossomed. I think that a lot of times people want to know you personally. We obviously spit out a lot of information in the jobs that we do, but I think a lot of people like to see something personal about you. Like, here's a picture of me and my dog, we're taking a walk today, or stuff like that. They like to know that there's a little bit more to you than just what they see on the television. I think they really gobble that up. But you have to, at the same time, you want to give people too much because there's, you want to have your privacy still, but I think there's a happy medium in there somewhere.
Yeah, it's interesting with all this different social media, from Instagram to chat to Twitter. I just kind of chose Twitter because I like the quickness of it and the smallness of it, actually, in terms of what you get to write on there. So I'll have my Twitter go to my Facebook. So because there's different users like different social media, and like Mike said, in terms of your own person, my Twitter is essentially weather, period, 100% weather, as is my Facebook. But Instagram, I will show a few more family pictures and things like that. I kind of use that as a little family outlet. My sister does. I see her. Nobody calls anybody on the phone anymore. If you want to catch up with somebody, you look at their Facebook page or their Instagram page.
Sure.
So that's how I use it.
So kind of going off, having fun pictures, what do you like to do for fun when you have free time?
Free time? There's such a thing as free time.
He's got a little additional responsibility, right?
Listen, I got a little guy at home. I got an 18-month-old at home, and he keeps me very, very busy. But I like to hang out with the family, hang out with the dog, do some hiking, do some kayaking around Atlanta. There's some good rivers nearby where you can hop in the boat and go.
I love being outdoors. Whether it's covering weather or just in my personal life, I love being up in North Georgia mountains, because growing up in Vermont, the Southern Appalachians it's the same mountain chain, so it really kind of reminds me of home when I get out of the city. I'm definitely not a city boy in any stretch. So just me and Ben, my son, would go up, take the top off the Jeep, whether we're cruising on a dirt road or floating down the river. It's just that's what we love to do.
And this is a question more for you, a little bit about the new show you guys have been doing, the Weather Underground show. So give us a little bit of details about that. I know it's been going on for a while, but maybe just kind of talk about, what drove you guys to want to do a show like that on the Weather Channel, because it obviously is a lot different than the standard somebody's on the map giving you the weather information. So kind of give us a little bit of a background on that kind of a show, maybe, if you can.
Sure. Weather Underground has traditionally been just a website. Right, and a lot of people visited as personal weather stations, or kind of the core of that, and it's really intense meteorology. It's, it's not the glitz and glamour, so to speak, of TV meteorology. It was not, and the show is not designed to be that at all. It's designed to be more like the website is, and so we decided we were gonna have a group of people that were going to be on this show, that it was ties off, it was jackets off. We were going to sit around in our weather cave, and we were just going to shoot the breeze about weather and allow ourselves to go a little bit more in depth on topics that you wouldn't necessarily get that layer on any other show on the Weather Channel. And I think that the social media aspect and having our viewers interact with us a lot, and actually they even participate on our show. People that own personal weather stations within the Weather Underground network, we invite them on the show. They report remotely from their weather station, wherever that may be. And I think it's more of a show that's about togetherness, and we kind of do this all as a big group, not just us being presenters, but it really allows us to go really deep into the science more than we normally do on the channel.
So since the event is held here at the Weather Center and there's a lot of undergraduate students here, how do you think this facility will impact undergraduates currently studying meteorology in this building? And how do you think if you had a building like this when you were an undergraduate that it would have affected you here?
I'd have been overwhelmed.
To walk down the corridor of a hall and actually see the name of a professor who wrote the book I'm using to study in. I mean, you know, I mean that's pretty cool. You know, so I mean that would have been incredible. But
I mean, I compare it to
the Mecca.
where I was when I studied meteorology at Ohio State. Literally, my junior year, we were in a basement of the medical library. There was like shag carpet, one little tiny computer with a dot matrix printer, and then you see, you know, what OU has. It's just world class. And I think if you come here and you study, you're learning from the best professors in the best environment, in the best place in the entire world to learn about severe weather in particular. So it really doesn't get any better than this.
I mean, imagine on a moderate to high risk day, you go down and you hang out, you know, in SPC and see what it's like down there. I mean, that's incredible. Just that experience is unbelievable. And this is the heartbeat. This is the message that goes out. They're just about to issue a high risk. You know it, and then you see it come out on nationwide. The place everybody goes crazy. So, I mean, it doesn't get much better than that.
So obviously, in all you guys' years at the Weather Channel, what has been, obviously you guys have done live shots inside storms or hurricanes, what has been your most memorable event to cover while you've been at the Weather Channel, whether it be a hurricane or a severe weather event? What would you say is the most memorable one your entire time?
For me, probably the Joplin, Missouri tornado. We were chasing that day and ended up being right in town when the tornado happened. We pulled into town 9 minutes after the tornado touched down. I had never seen anything quite like that before. We covered tornadoes all the time and we chased tornadoes a lot, but I had never seen anything that destructive and that really sad in my life because it was so fresh, and it's just, you know, it's ingrained in my mind. I don't think it'll ever leave.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that too, because when I saw you, when I came into to work, the tornado as well, I saw a look on your face that I had with Katrina, which was, you know, just something you've never witnessed, or you think it's more of a movie set than really what has just happened here. And you realize the scope of what's happened and the people's lives have been impacted. So I don't care what anyone says. I mean, it is a life-changing experience. You will never forget it. How you deal with it, you know, that's up to you and whatever, but you'll never forget experiences like that.
Yeah, pretty big one.
So talking about, you know, experience that you experienced when you were at career as a meteorologist, was there a particular event before you came into undergrad to meteorology that made you just want to do meteorology, or did you just grow up loving it?
Sure. I mean, we all have the story, I think. I grew up in Ohio, and it was the blizzards of 77 and 78 that were really epic, and I was a little kid at the time, but I remember being out of school for a week, and that's when I had my first memory of an experience with a TV meteorologist, because in Cleveland, Ohio was Dick Goddard. He was just like the king of weather, right? And he's still there. I think he's going on like 85 years old. He's still broadcasting. But that was my real first memory of weather that was really, really impactful, and I still remember it now.
So after the storm hit Mike in 1978, it came over and hit me in Vermont. So the blizzard of 78 was the one. I mean, we already had a big year, you know, in terms of snowfall, and once they cleared the piles of snow off of the road, it was just like you were driving in a snow cave. I mean, it was unbelievable, the amount of snow. It was so cool to stand in it up to my chest. I was like, this is unbelievable, you know, all this snow. So that was my coming out.
The
party,
drifts
for sure.
were ridiculous. Now I remember
Yeah,
we had a little
just
dog. We had a little dog at the time. I remember that my dad opened up the window from the second story and put the dog out on the snow so that he could go. It was at least it was packed down enough where he wouldn't sink down through, but the drifts were 10, 12 feet high outside our house. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And then as you were, doing the internships or things like that, was there any particular piece of advice or anyone who said something to you that really, kind of impacted you to, once you continue to pursue broadcasting, that you would want to tell us, or maybe even prospective students, maybe? Any piece of advice or anything?
I would say, my mentor when I was working at Channel 10 in Columbus, Ohio, was Mike Davis. He was a chief meteorologist. I think it was more like, good luck, buddy. Like, you're going to need it. But he was so great because, I really wanted to get a job in TV, help me make some tapes, and just, the encouragement goes a long way, because a lot of times in this business, it gets you down, there's rejection, and you take it personally. But you can't. You have to say, I'm good enough to do this, and I'm going to keep honing my skills, and I'm going to get better, and I'm going to do what I love.
When I had my internship in Boston, WHDH during my junior year, I mean, first of all, you go into the big city, you got to get to the station. I was living in the North Shore with my girlfriend at the time, and I remember just going in there. I mean, there's all these pieces and parts to TV. It's not just a guy analyzing a weather map anymore or putting together. There's just everybody, and there's people talking, and there's people talking to you in your ear, and I'm like, holy smoke. But one of the things that you learn over the years is the guy behind the camera is just as important as you in front of the camera, and so you have to treat everybody as an equal, just because more than likely they're not making the cash that you are, or they work a camera, or they work in the edit bay. They're just as important a part of the equation as you are. So really, give them all your respect, because they're 100% part of the team. That's what I learned.
So going back to the event today, can you tell us a little bit about this documentary and just any general opinions?
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic. Dave Malkoff hosts Oklahoma Tornado Target, and it really focuses a lot on central Oklahoma. Moore, and how Moore has really become this epicenter for tornadoes and the big events that we've already talked about, 99, 2013, and how the brains of severe weather meteorology are right here in Oklahoma. And I think it really casts Oklahoma. Listen, we all know there's a dark history, unfortunately, when it comes to tornadoes here, but there's also, I think, a really positive message that comes out of this documentary about how people are resilient, how they can rebuild smarter, how they protect themselves, awareness, and then the science. I mean, scientists are prominently featured in this, and I think it's a real testament to wanting to learn more about tornadoes and learning about how to protect ourselves from tornadoes.
I can't really add anything to that. It's perfect.
Thanks.
Yeah, man. You perfected your craft, yeah?
I guess I'll ask a few things. So, if you could, obviously you guys are kind of experts pretty much on all things meteorology. What is your favorite thing to cover in meteorology? Like, basically, so like if you were on a live shot, would you rather experience an EF5 tornado, or would you rather experience a Category 5 hurricane? Which one would you rather go through? At the Weather Channel as a live.
He's eyeballing me over here. Over the years, because I've been in so many of them, and I've seen the outcome, nothing good comes out of a big hurricane or a big tornado, okay? And I've seen enough hardship. So I really enjoy snow and blizzards. Typically nobody gets hurt. I can have some fun in there, and I do prefer those.
Yeah,
Just
I
because
agree
of the
100%. Like, to me, a hurricane is just a really wet day. And you're wind blasted. It's just actually not that much fun to cover. In the tornado, there's that thrill of the chase, but there's always that chance of what comes after. So I'm with Jim on this. Winter storms are a lot more fun to cover. They're very visual. When it's snowing a ton, it really translates on camera. And you don't tend to have to be so serious. you can sometimes have you want to get the message across and the urgency of the situation, but you can sometimes have some fun with it too, which is nice.
Okay, and then one last question for you, Steve, and it wraps it up. Where do you see broadcast meteorology, let's say 20 years from now, and the direction it's going? Do you think it's going to continue to be the way it is now? Do you think it will change a lot? And how should students, like us, for example, being broadcast students, what would you tell us to prepare for as we're getting ready to get close to going out into the field and developing our careers and such?
Can we take this in 5-year increments?
I mean, I guess you could. I guess just in general, where do you see the field going in the future?
Well, I mean, I think the whole face of television is changing. I mean, we're in the middle of, this thing. All right, that's where everybody wants to get their information. I still think that an icon is not the only message that's going to give you the forecast, especially when the game's on the line, right? I mean, it's not going to tell you there's a high risk of tornadoes today just because there's an icon on there. You need to get other information from a trusted source. So I still think that's very much needed, but where is that platform going to be? Is it going to be just on the TV anymore? No, it's going to be back on the phone through things like Facebook Live, which I think is going to explode. So there'll always be the need for more answers, especially in a country that has so many issues with natural disasters like we do. So I think there'll always be jobs.
Yeah, I think the traditional TV meteorology may not even exist 10 years from now. It'll just have morphed into something else. Everyone is so individualistic now. Everyone wants specific information relevant to them, not just sprayed out information for the masses to ingest. So I think the forecast is going to become more personalized than ever with information, with a human being, and I think you're just going to pull it up on your phone or your tablet, and that's the way you'll get it in the future. And there really won't be tuning into the 6 o'clock news or the 11 o'clock news anymore. That's a dinosaur.
Okay, anything else? That's everything. So thank you guys very much for coming on with you.